Hello again, students. So what I'm going to do with this shorter video is to try and answer some of those questions that were asked so that you can, those who want to watch it can watch it, and those who don't have to. But so the first question I got asked was what was like daily life like during the war and how difficult it was. Well, every day is different. Wartime life is long periods of immense boredom interspersed with moments of sheer terror is really what it's like. Generally, as an officer, you don't have a lot of boredom time because you have so much to do and so many responsibilities. You're always either planning the next mission and conducting a mission, or assessing and recovering from a mission, doing after action reports, etc., to try and see how well you did. So you don't have a lot of downtime as an officer. A lot of those soldiers do have downtime, but daily life is, each day, each campaign, period of time. It's pretty difficult. It's pretty hard to summarize in a short, quick video. But combat itself is very difficult mentally. It's exhausting. You go long months of time. It isn't really the amount of time that you're engaged in combat, that it's the amount of time that your body and mind is stressed and with all different thoughts and things going on. So it's extremely difficult. It's extremely challenging time, and each deployment, each tour has been very different. The next question I have here is, what was the experience like? Was it more scary than exciting? Well, I wouldn't, this is how I've often characterized my combat experiences. I wouldn't do it again for $1 million, but I also wouldn't, take $1 million to have it taken all away from me. So that's how valuable I consider it to be in my experience, my life being. It's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing that I survived 3 combat tours, and 4, depending how you count it. But I owe my life to so many people and so many other men that I got to come home and see my family and live my life and be here to talk to you today. It's an incredible blessing, but it's also a curse because you live with things and you live with memories and you live with frustrations. You look at the world out today and how divisively partisan everything is. It's not what I fought for. I didn't fight for Republicans or Democrats. I fought for Americans, and it pains me deeply to see us thinking that it is other Americans who are the enemy, when in fact I know enough to know that there is enough threat out there to know that there are real threats. So that's, I don't know if this is really answering the questions that you're asking, but it's the best way that I can say it. It's a very moving experience, very difficult, but one that shapes you. The next question I had was a whole bunch of questions about my different wars and what branch of service. As you know, you can tell by the Army. I told you I was a cavalry officer. I was a reconnaissance officer. Later in my career, I was a military intelligence officer. I told you our unit's mission was, we were a recon unit in the first war, recon unit in the second deployment, and in the third and my last deployment in Afghanistan, I was doing more of a military intelligence mission, strategic intelligence mission. I do feel like we accomplished our mission in each case, even though, first of all, in the first war, we definitely did, but by the same token, the enemy accomplished its mission too. It delayed my unit for 12 hours. One brigade delayed an entire Army Corps. Now, at the time, the only part of the Army Corps that was engaged was our cavalry squadron. So, but overall, they achieved their objective. They delayed us for 12 hours, which was long enough for a lot of their soldiers and equipment to escape out of Kuwait. But I feel like we achieved our mission for sure. We were very successful overall, even though we lost some soldiers and lost some men. I feel like we accomplished our mission. My first deployment in Afghanistan, it's hard to say I felt like we accomplished our mission because we didn't capture Osama bin Laden, but we captured a lot of guys. When my unit was there, we were responsible for the capture over several hundred Al-Qaeda and Taliban fighters. And we really gathered a lot of intelligence, which laid the foundation for the war on terror. We figured out what terrorism really was, or how to fight terrorism, and how Al Qaeda operated. We learned a lot of that by our first year or two fighting them. And that also leads to our mission in Iraq, the same thing. You know, we learned a lot about what our enemy is, even though it was very painful and tragic, and we lost a lot of lives. There's no doubt in my mind. I know this may not be the conventional wisdom, but I have no doubt in my mind that people can be critical about us going to Iraq, but I think it saved American lives. I have no doubt in my mind that there would have been more attacks on American soil if there wasn't a bloody battle going on in Iraq that many jihadists from across the world were desirous of going to fight in, as opposed to trying to kill American civilians. But that's a fact. That's an opinion, I should say. It's not a fact. Many people may not agree with it. How do you feel about the morale of the American soldiers you served with? There's nothing quite like the American soldier. It gives you incredible inspiration every day when you're serving with them. The things that I've seen American soldiers do, the dangers that they would take to protect a child or an innocent person on a battlefield, to put themselves at risk to protect those lives. I know those aren't the stories that are told, but it's what I've seen with my eyes, and it's what I've seen and experienced. The morale of the American soldier is phenomenal. They're professional, and they're extremely committed and dedicated and well-disciplined. There's always going to be bad apples. You know, the Abu Ghraib incident in Iraq, I didn't mention that in my other video. I probably should have. It's one of the reasons what led to the media turning on us and the politicians turning on us and the whole thing, you know, kind of crumbling down, if you will. Stuff like that unfortunately happens because there's always going to be some bad actors and there's going to be some bad people. But the difference is, and this is why it's not fair for the terrorists to say that we are committing terrorism. That is an offensive statement to say. The difference is we prosecute soldiers who do those acts. They're considered to be criminals and they're put in jail. And there's lots of them who are, that you may not hear about it or know about it, but they are. And it's not acceptable to commit those atrocities in the American military. That's what separates us. We don't target civilians. To have civilians been killed? Certainly. Does that mean we are guilt-free? No, it does not. But that's different than targeting innocent people to make a political statement, which is what terrorism is. The American soldiers are amazing. I just can't say enough about it. There's nothing like the spirit, the camaraderie, and the focus and determination and sacrifices that American soldiers make for others. And I think that's hard. That's the part that's hard to communicate, especially when you have people who don't agree with that message. But there are opinions there and there are facts, and our soldiers are it's backed up by fact that there's very few atrocities and very few bad instances that happen in combat as compared to other armies, other engagements. None of them are good, don't get me wrong, but that's how you measure it, and those are the facts. And then last question, what was the personal feeling about the Persian Gulf War overall? I think I mentioned that. I think I answered that. It was a very different operation. Each of them were different. It's really hard to look back on them all. They kind of each have their own little natures, and each of the deployments have their own natures. But if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Get the questions to your teachers and send them to me, and I'd be happy to put out another little video. And maybe one day when this COVID thread is all done, we can actually do some of this in person, and that would be fun too. Hopefully you've gotten something out of this. I hope you have. And thank you very much for me and behalf of my men who I've lost throughout my service, and those who I know who have given their life for us, for all of us. This allows their experiences to be shared and passed on and hopefully appreciated. If not yet, if you don't have to agree with everything I say, but I think understanding and appreciating is what the objective is. And we can always do that. We can disagree on facts. We can disagree on opinions, and we can have different views of facts. But I think it's always important to understand, even if you don't disagree with something. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. Again, have a great day, and thank you very much for the opportunity.